This is Mark Schiff of the podcast You Don't Know Schiff. And today we have a very special guest, and we're going to find out. We're going to talk about how actually the two of us found each other. But let me tell you a little something here. Jane Wolfe, and it says in an article by Tori Douglas, which is a fantastic article. It's called Eat and Read at Melba's. For a woman who says she's never read a proper book until the age of 43, Jane Wolfe is one of the most passionate advocates of literacy you could ever hope to meet. And this article goes on and on about the great stuff that's going on. So with that said, and she also and her husband Scott own a restaurant called Melba's, which we'll talk about that. And do you still have laundromats?
Yeah, we got a laundromat. That's what's so beautiful about this. We got a laundromat hooked to this restaurant.
Wow.
So that makes Melba's even more beautiful. And it's
amazing.
open 24 hours.
I know it is. So listen, let me ask you a question. Do I have an accent to you?
Do I have an accent?
No, I'm not asking you if you have one. You definitely have one. Do I have one?
No, you don't sound like you have an accent. No, you do sound like you have a little accent. Yeah, I do hear something special in there.
Well, I'm from the East Coast, from New York, and I hear something special in your voice.
That's right.
And
that's what it is.
That's right. You're down in New Orleans.
I'm down in New Orleans, born and raised.
Tell us about it. Where did you start out in New Orleans? What part?
Well, we were in a little bitty parish. They call us parishes down here, right? In Louisiana. And it was called St. Bernard Parish. That's where my husband and I grew up. And it's about 6 blocks from New Orleans, right? So, and all our businesses were in New Orleans. So I grew up eating, living, breathing, being a New Orleanian. So, I've never left actually, which is kind of interesting in and of itself.
So they also have something called wards. Right?
Wards, yeah, we have wards. That's right, WARDS.
So what is a ward in the parish? What is the difference?
Well, that's a good thing. So that means I don't know Schiff, right?
You don't know Schiff.
There is a difference. There is a difference. The parishes or some type of mode of government, the way the government was set up in regard to French in the French days. The wards, I don't really know about the WARDSs, where exactly it came from, but all our businesses were all in wards. So our most busiest business when we were in the grocery business before this restaurant was in the 9th ward. And that's the ward that, took all the airways during Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
And it was one of the poorest sections of New Orleans, actually. However, not just the poorest section of New Orleans, which is very interesting. It was 99% African Americans. It was poor, but it had the highest ownership of houses. African Americans had the highest ownership of the houses inside of the 9th ward.
Wow.
So that's interesting in and of itself.
Certainly is. I didn't know that.
So we were a grocery store for the 9th ward, and which no other grocery store was around. We were it.
Right. So when I grew up in New York, we had neighborhoods and blocks. That was our neighborhood, and that was our ward. That was our
Okay.
So we didn't
That
have.
would be a ward.
So tell me about your family a little bit. Your mother, your father, you got siblings?
Yeah, I have 3 sisters. One passed away with breast cancer very young, 32 years old. Actually, she was 48. I love the Joyce. I come from a whole family of girls. My husband comes from a whole family of boys. My daddy was in the furniture business with by the name of Kirschman's. And he was in the furniture business working for Mr. Victor Kirschman for about 35 years. My mama had a little beauty salon, they used to call it, inside her house.
Wow.
And I received all my insight into business from there. And my daddy and mama opened a little bitty grocery store about 800 to 1,000 square feet. And then my husband and I get married, and we got married very young. I was,
16.
yes, and he was 18.
Hmm.
And my husband came from a family of 5 boys. We started working in my daddy's little grocery store. And then my husband and I went and purchased our own little grocery store about 2 miles away from my daddy. And
Right.
then my husband we took it from there.
Right. So yeah, you got married at 16, I know, to Scott, your husband.
Very young. Yep.
And so did where you live, did you have to get permission from your parents to get married at 16? How does that work?
I don't even know how that worked out. I
Uh,
just know I got married. But I don't remember tracking down to the courthouse and going to get permission from a civil authority, right? It probably was or had to be okayed by my parents. But let me tell you, well, I never felt rejected by my parents for having to get married. I had to get married. I was pregnant. And I never felt rejection from my family at all. Actually, my mom and daddy gave us a little wedding.
Hmm.
And, we had a little wedding in a place that was about 4,000 square feet. We had a little band. And I didn't even fully realize that it was too young and too raw. And it was too young. I
Right.
didn't realize people were probably maybe talking about me in the crowd, but I never heard it and I never thought it.
Hmm.
So I don't recommend getting married that young, but I will say this that today I see people waiting too long.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. My son got married at 24, which is actually pretty young for,
Hmm.
although
That's
I'm
pretty
in a,
young today.
yeah, but I'm in a religious community, a Jewish religious community, and
Hmm.
people get married here at about 20, 21 sometimes, a lot of them.
And
By
that's
the
good.
way,
You gotta grow in love together.
yep. By the way, my side of the family was all boys, and
Okay.
we got a grandchild, a first girl in my family in 100 years.
What? Oh my
So,
goodness.
we
What's her
broke the
name?
Lucy. Lucy is her name.
Lucy.
She's just turned
Oh,
1. She's turned 1.
that's
So,
beautiful.
we were all boys on my side. So your
Oh,
parents,
100 years.
um, was the religion? Was there God at home? What?
There was Catholicism for sure. My daddy went to Catholic school. We all went to Catholic schools. I'll always remember being in a Catholic school, and I used to pull a tuition thing up when tuition was due. And I remember it said $35
For the
that he had
year?
to pay. But I don't know, it was like monthly. I remember
Right.
that little thing I had to open up. Um, my mama had us in a choir inside the church. So we were a church choir for a church. A nun is the person that taught me how to play guitar.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
So
Sister, what
so
was her name?
yes,
Sister what? Do you
Sister
remember her name?
Leslie. Sister
Leslie.
Leslie. Yes.
Beautiful.
It was beautiful. And so we didn't open up the Bible at home and study it. I always felt that when I finally went to school late in life and got a religious education, I couldn't believe how much I wasn't taught in the Bible, but I'm happy about it because now everything is just blossoming even deeper, right? And what's
Mm.
interesting about my husband, he didn't come from a religious home. His mama went to Catholic church, but his daddy never did go with him. So my husband and I, it's interesting. I'm glad you asked that question, but would I say it was a religious home for me? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, I'm
Yes,
glad
it
to hear
was.
that
And I think,
I'm glad to hear that they accepted you, being pregnant and not married yet.
yeah.
I had an aunt who, quite a bit older. She's not with us anymore, but she got pregnant at
Hmm.
16 and they sent her
Hmm.
away for a while till she had the baby. And then they made her, pretty much adopted out. And,
Yeah.
so it was a different time. So I'm
Well,
glad to hear
what's
that.
funny? Yeah, what's funny about my grandkids now, they starting to add things up with their fingers.
Right.
We've always talked about me getting married young, but now I have my 11-year-old saying, "How you? Yeah, yeah." And I'm like, I was pretty young.
Wow. How old is the oldest?
12. We have two 12s, two 9s, and one 7. So we have 5 beautiful grandchildren.
Beautiful. So just make sure you let them know they don't have to get married at 16.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
They might be worried
I'm
about that.
trying. Yeah, I'm trying.
So New Orleans is a very interesting place for many reasons, and
Mhm.
many of the reasons I have no idea. Neither do most people. What we knew about New Orleans is pretty much Mardi Gras, women
Uh-huh.
on balconies throwing beads,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
maybe funerals. You know, the New
Mhm.
Orleans jazz type funeral.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
they put fun in a funeral.
put the word fun in a funeral and
Yeah, F-U-N.
preservation jazz band. So let's talk about New
Mhm.
Orleans when you were growing up. Maybe how it's changed a little. What was it like where you lived? Is it rural? Was it rural where you lived?
No, it's not. It wasn't rural where I lived, but it wasn't intense in a city. We did business in a city. I lived in a low parish with 70,000 people. Um, and it wasn't rural like you would have like in Lafayette, Louisiana,
Mhm,
right? Uh, but we were very aware of the city because we're so close to the city, right?
mhm,
Um, but growing up was beautiful. I remember riding my bike. Uh, I remember ride my bike to the convenience store. I remember never being scared,
mhm.
and I'm
Wow.
still not scared today. You know how some
What do you
parents
mean
they're
by
so
that?
worried
Never
about.
being. What do you mean? Like going out as a kid, you were never scared of
Yes,
anything, right?
never. I never had this scared feeling that I feel as though it's been manufactured on these kids today. But even today, we just never talk about being scared at home or being concerned about something happening to us. So my family life was we never watched much TV. We always went down into the city and we'd go to the French market and my dad would go buy watermelons and we'd go sell them at the grocery store. We'd go get some produce at the
Mhm.
French
Sure.
market. Um, I was never scared of the city the way some people are scared of the inner cities today.
Do you see any reason why they would be scared? Listen, I live in Los Angeles, and I'm nervous now because it's pretty bad. We got the
Yeah.
homeless, and besides the homeless, the laws is you can steal things and you don't get in trouble anymore.
Right,
It,
right. We starting to see, yeah, we starting to see that because social media and the internet allows us to see things we didn't know about. However, there is a sense of disorder a little bit with young folk thinking they could do whatever they want and not have ramifications for it.
right?
I don't remember that as a child, you know.
No. Yeah.
Um, so am I scared to be? I mean, we're smack in the middle of the city with Melba's. I'm not scared, but I am concerned that maybe one day somebody drugged up can,
Sure.
hurt anybody of us in Melba's. I'd be concerned. So, but still, at the end of the day, I see up close and personal here in New Orleans more kindness
Hmm.
than supposedly hate that's exposed on TV. I see more kindness in people's eyes. I
So I want to hear
saw
about
more
that.
kindness.
I want to hear about that because we hear New Orleans is not a safe place, and
Mhm.
that's what we hear. So let's hear about this kindness because I know that's a huge part of your life. In fact, let me just say, you when you started your grocery store, I read that you guys would hang out slogans
Oh
outside.
yeah, always.
Tell us
We would
about
do it.
that.
Yeah, we had a little grocery store. The best one was in Ninth Ward, but we had one on Martin Luther King Boulevard in South Claiborne, which was another ward. And we used to have these reader boards in the front. And this was before, right now you go through your social media and you see all kind of quotes. You see so many quotes that try to uplift you. You don't even know if the quote's coming from the person that they say it's coming from.
That's
But
right.
I used to put up quotes, and it was from the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I used to get these quotes, and I used to put them up on a reader board. And we'd have about 30,000 callers pass these reader boards on a daily basis, and we would change the reader boards twice a day, twice a week at least. And it was just to put positivity in people's minds. So it's amazing as I look back on life, Mark, from 35, 40 years ago. I was teaching back then,
Hmm.
right? But with a reader board. I didn't even realize I was teaching when I was teaching. But it was just to put a good message on somebody's day as they pass the grocery. And it built community goodwill in that community, of which I didn't do it intentionally.
Hmm.
It was just like, we need to put these mattresses out. And my husband would be totally against it. Totally.
Really?
He wanted to put milk $1.99 a gallon. He says
Well,
those messages aren't getting anybody in the door, Jay. So me and him would go at it. I usually went out, and it's one of the best things I did, and I'm so glad I did it. And it's the old fashioned reader boards with the little,
sure.
the little letters you got to put up every day.
So what is a quote that says something about Jane Wolfe's life?
Oh man. Well, a quote when I was at Harvard Divinity School, I I was invited to do a little speech at the chapel. And that was compliments on my professor and the minister that was there. And I did it on one of my favorite verses in the Bible. And I don't know if it has to do with me, but I think it has to do with what we need to do when things are not going right. And it's Psalm 46:10. It's in Old Testament. You might even know it. You know Psalm 46:10?
No.
It's be still and know that I am.
Okay.
Be still and know that I am God. Uh, I feel as though we have to, the quote that I like that quote. And if my family thinks of me, I hope that in the future, if I'm no longer here, they can think of me as a person that would tell people you need to be still,
Hmm.
be quiet, think about this. You know what I mean? So I like that, be still.
So in
But I'm
the
not
Jewish
a lot of I'm not
in the
still a
Jew
lot though.
in I know that. I know that. You're and in the Jewish religion we say may you live to 120.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's so you have plenty of time left. So don't
Mm-hmm.
you worry about a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
your children and your family and your friends will have many wonderful things to say about you. So that's
Right.
long in the future.
So just trust the process, right? Of the
Yeah,
120 years.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I could see that going with the be still aspect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you started this grocery with your husband. You're 16
Mm-hmm.
years old. Somehow you
Mm-hmm.
got your hands on $10,000.
Yep. My husband went next, 10 family members,
That's a
and
lot of money.
11th one
That was a lot of money back then when you didn't have money.
in 1980. It sure was. Especially with for some young folk we were 17 and 19 when he's starting to ask for money. I mean, would you give a 17-year-old $10,000 today? You think about it, right?
Probably
Oh,
not. I
man.
would say, what are you going to do with it? And they go open a
Yeah, what are you
grocery
gonna
store, and they go open a grocery store. I go, what are you crazy?
Yeah, what are you crazy?
What are you
That's right.
crazy? Open a grocery store.
Yeah,
There's a million grocery stores. What do you know about?
right.
So, what did you know about grocery? What do you know? So you ask family members uh, for money. They give you this money,
Uh-huh.
and what
Well,
happens now?
it wasn't a family member that gave us the money. It was my husband's brother's friend. And his friend's father was in the coffee business in New
Mhm.
Orleans. So it's connections of that nature, right? I think it was Folger's Coffee. I think he was importing Folger's Coffee. And he gave us the money on a he gave my husband the money on a handshake.
Wow,
No contract. And he told my husband, pay me back when you can.
wow.
So how you get into the grocery business? It's something that my daddy taught us, and I think we just went in there, cleaned it up, and made it the best it could be.
Hmm.
Like it was clean when you walked in. It was organized. It was stocked. We were waiting on people. How do you want your luncheon meat cut? How do you want your pork chop cut? How thick you want it.
Wow.
Um,
So
So
this
we
was
were
more than a
given
grocery store. This was more than a
yeah, it was a
grocery
meat
store.
market.
Right,
Yeah,
there's
and
a
you know
big
what I was
difference.
yeah, and you know what I was saying was, huh? Do you know what I was saying was?
No.
It was, "You can't beat Wagner's meat."
There you go. There you go.
There's the
That's
comedy, right?
right there. So
Right there.
you open this and there weren't a lot of in the I think I read like they say it's a desert for food. There's not a lot around.
Right, it was, it's what's considered today a food desert, and actually, the grocery stores today were all pushed away by Hurricane Katrina. Uh, the
Right.
areas
And
that
you
the
had
grocery st
at your height, you
we
had
had
like
about
300 people working for you,
no,
right?
we had 300 people working for us, all neighborhood, people in the neighborhood of the grocery. We had no hot shot from New York running a grocery
Yeah.
store
None of my people.
yeah,
Yeah.
none of your
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe if we had, I don't, man, I don't know. We just had us.
You didn't
All of
need
us.
my believe me, you didn't need my people coming down there busting your
Yeah, they,
chops
yeah,
and
they
telling you
probably
how
would
to
have
do
took
it.
it. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. We would have taken it over. So let me ask you, so you're two white people
Uh-huh.
in a
Mhm.
very
That's right.
black environment, right? 99% you said?
99%. Yep. How did
You
that
were
work,
you were
right?
the 1%, so or less. So
That's right.
what is that like? I let me tell you, I once went to I went to the Caribbean. I used to work the
Mhm.
cruise ships, and this
Mhm.
one white guy moved to this island and somewhere in the Dominican Republic. He was the only white person on the island.
Okay.
Doing very well. People loved him. Never an
Yeah.
issue. So what was it like for you? Was this a consideration? What did the people say? What did they think? Were they happy to just have a great store like yours?
Yes. Look, like I said, Mark, I always saw kindness in people's eyes. And I'm just not saying that. I'm telling you, there was always kindness in people's eyes and appreciativeness that you are keeping the store so nice and so
Mhm,
clean.
mhm,
And I don't regret one day in the grocery business. And we were in it for 35 years. And I wish I was
mhm.
starting it all over again. Um, there was just kindness. Now, I'm not saying we never had issues sometimes,
Sure.
right? I
Mm,
mean,
mhm.
I've already had some, we've had issues sometimes. People come in and just take a candy bar or, you got to deal with all of that. But I guess the feeling I could say what it was and what I felt as I look back, I never thought black and white at the time. It wasn't, it wasn't that. We were just people. And I think everybody that came to the grocery store kind of respected that we were there trying to do the best we can and we were young.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
And I don't remember the black white dichotomy in my head about it. It was just we were
mhm.
servicing people that we needed to service in order for us to make a living. And everybody that came in was happy that they had somewhere to come because there was nowhere else to go, Mark.
Right. Well,
And
we have that in Los Angeles. There are certain areas that people don't
mhm,
open stores, and there's no place
mhm,
for people to get good food, and
mhm,
it's difficult because people won't go into those areas, and there are
right.
a lot of reasons. But it's a thing that you have. I have a little
But
bit of this
today,
too. I try. You're saying in a way you see the goodness in people. You hear. Yeah.
I
Explain that.
s-
Were
to,
you born with this?
today, are you born with it? Mark, as I look back from us being in the grocery business down on the ground floor in the 1980s to what I see today, and the people that come into, the restaurant today or just being in business today, I feel as though that fear has been manufactured.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I see people maybe a little bit more apprehensive to deal with people today when I didn't see that as much when I was younger in the grocery business. Uh, I blame media for stirring people's hearts up in ways that shouldn't be stirred. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't quite put my finger on it, but I there's still kindness in everybody's eyes that I
Mm-hmm.
see. I
Mm-hmm.
see more poverty today,
Mm-hmm.
more deeper poverty, and I see people eyes more lost today.
Mm-hmm.
With the people that frequent retail, right? So I didn't see lostness in young people's eyes before as I see today, which is
Right.
concerning. But I do see a deeper level of poverty that I didn't see just 30 years ago.
Wow. That's saying a lot.
And yeah, and that's kind of scary to think about, right? I mean, how did America let it get like this?
Hmm. I
So
agree with I agree with so much of what you said there. There's a lot of
mhm,
fear in the air,
mhm,
and it's
mhm.
stoked by the
Yes,
media. I totally
yes.
agree with you, and they bring up issues in many areas that don't even exist. Uh,
Right. And that's where my religious thinking is beneficial to me, because when I'm around people that are like that, or if I hear people talking like that, I just bring it back to say, look, God made us all. We're gonna make it through this. You know, we all human beings. We all have a thing to do that God has us on earth to do. We have 120 years to do it, hopefully. Just do what you got to do, and be the best you can be where you are.
that's
And
right.
that's all we can do, Mark.
I tell people God has no grandchildren.
Ah, explain that.
We're
What
all
you
His
mean by
children.
that?
We're all
Oh,
His children.
that's right. Right.
None of
God
us
has no
are His
grandchildren.
grandchildren. We're all His children.
Right. Right.
Black, white, yellow, red, whatever it is, we're all His children.
Yeah. Yes, I like that. I'm gonna
He
use
doesn't
that.
like
It's
like with our grandchildren. He doesn't get to send us home to our parents' house.
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
That's right.
when we're done with them for the afternoon, and they're driving us
Yeah.
nuts, totally nuts.
Right. Yeah. He's dependent on us to do what we got to do where we are.
Right. But one of the hardest things is to find that mission in life that you seem to have
Mm,
found.
mm.
A lot of people
Yes, it's hard.
can't uncover
Hmm.
that special part of themselves that you've
Right.
been able to uncover. How did this happen with you?
Well, I'm
That's
gonna tell
why
you how
I
it
asked,
happened.
what?
I'm gonna tell you how it happened because I think I figured it out.
Okay.
Because I do understand that people, I hear people when they come in here and they say, uh, "Oh, you're working on your vocation," and I'm like, "A vocation?" So, but I think it takes two people, Mark. You got to trust the process of the Lent, right? So I don't wake up in the morning, and I never did wake up in the morning thinking of future plans or my future self. I just woke up. We woke up in the morning. And you got to trust the process of like I said, the length of time. And I pertain to what I'm doing today to my being married long and my husband recognizing things that I like. So, for instance, the laundromat, the only reason why I got into this, I had to trust the process of, I went to school late in life. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was a teacher for, 3 semesters. And then one day he got a piece of paper in, at the laundromat. And the laundromat convention was coming through New Orleans because we had got a big convention center. And the laundromat people were trying to put reading nooks inside of laundromats. And if you pay them $1,500, they'll put a little reading nook in your place. They'll get,
Hmm.
a little bookshelf and they'll give you some books. So my husband, because of our long-term marriage and being in a long-term partnership with somebody, he's not into that kind of stuff. But he turned the paper and he said, "You like this stuff." I think he was trying to give me something to do, actually. Okay. That's what he says, okay?
That's
And
a
he
good
knew
husband.
yes, a good husband. And he knows it only costs $1,500, right?
Mhm.
So he threw the paper to me and I was like, "Oh my goodness, they come into town? The laundromat people want us to do this?" So I did it. They came to town. They did a free dryer day, wash day. They came and featured our laundromat. And that's all I can say is I took it up a notch.
Mhm.
And then the vocation aspect is while I'm doing it now, Mark, I say, I can sit with myself and say, this is where God wants me.
Mhm.
Because many people have already asked me, what the hell you still doing in that neighborhood? Why are you still there? You don't have to be.
Mhm.
And sometimes I ask myself, why am I in the inner city in New Orleans chugging hard?
Mhm.
Right? And that's all I can say is I'm comfortable in retail. I think there's value in retail, and there's nothing better than face to face with people.
Mhm. Well, there's a line in your book or in this one of the stories. You're combining capitalism with social,
Yes.
with like what's it called? I forgot what the line was exactly.
Academically, it's corporate social responsibility.
Yeah, and you found a
Hmm.
way to combine making money
Hmm.
and benefiting people with more than just the product.
Right. On a very small level. I mean, I'm a po' boy shop, right? I'm not GE. Uh, I think every business, and at first my husband does not think this way. He's a capitalist at the highest degree in the mind that it's the bottom line first. But I opened his eyes to the double bottom line. And if you're lucky enough to be able to do something for the community in what you serve and make a profit, to me, that's a whole run. That's a whole run.
Mhm. Mhm.
So and I believe that if you can do it at a very small level, like we doing it, I think that somebody that has more can definitely learn from it. But that's what's also beautiful about what we're doing now inside of this literacy project inside this restaurant. When somebody walks into this po' boy shop, and if they had po' boy laundromat daiquiri shop, and if they had any dream of being in business one day, they're gonna remember this po' boy shop. And they
Mhm.
gotta remember we did this. So now they go into business and they think in two things maybe, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna go into business, but what I'm gonna do. Now Tom's shoes opened my eyes today. Remember you buy a shoe, you give a shoe? Do you remember that
Tom's
Tom's shoes?
I don't.
TOMS.
Okay,
Yeah,
don't
it's a
remember
it's
that.
a yeah, they opened my eyes to that. You buy a shoe from their company and then they give a shoe to someone in need.
Right. Okay. Well,
And
there's a few companies that have done things similar. So I read this amazing thing that you did. You see, don't cut yourself short on a small level
mhm,
because you're
mhm,
sending
mhm,
soldiers. You're sending Jane Wolfe
that's
soldiers
right.
out into the world that are going to do
Okay,
good
that's right.
because you met you and your husband. You had this thing. It was you see, some people can't think human. They think this thing. Okay, so every time a kid got an A and he brought his report
Yeah.
card, what did you give them?
Yeah. A simple ice cream. A ice cream soft serve ice cream cone.
So they got a
And let
free
me
ice cream cone at your store if they could
Yep,
produce an A on a report card.
that's right. An
How about
A
if
on
they
our
had
report
five?
card.
How about if they had five A's on there? Do other brothers and sisters get the ice cream cones too?
No, no, we didn't do that. No, look, you could have all F's and you get an A, you know?
Yeah, sure. You
Uh,
get one A and attendance, and you got all F's. That's an ice cream.
that's right. It's an ice cream. And um,
So
the
these kids
parent,
would come to the shop with a smile
yes,
on their face, and they're so proud.
yes.
This is
It's so simple, right, Malak?
That's what
It's
I'm
so
saying about
simple.
you. You have a way, like I'm a comedian,
Well,
and
I appreciate that.
we have to find the
Hmm.
simple things in life that people will
Yes.
understand, and
Yes.
you've been able to do this.
Right. Yes, we've been able to do it. And I think maybe one reason why I'm able to do it is because we stayed simple.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe. You
Mhm.
know, I think there's something beautiful about simpleness because
I do too.
you can always be on the level of what normal people are. I mean, I never did go, you know, I don't know. I'm not on the coast in France on the beach with a designer
No,
bathing suit, right? But but
not yet. Not yet. Anyway.
not yet. I don't ever see. But the beautiful thing is, yeah, that ice cream. And when I saw those parents walk in, I remember, would give it out, and I saw the parents' eyes even more than the kids.
Mhm.
The parents were appreciative that they could tell their kid, "Come on, we're going down to Wagner's." That was the name of our grocery. We're going down to Wagner's, and we're going to get an ice cream. So it was a celebration.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So I'm imagining them walking to the store and talking about it. And I'm imagining them in the car and they going to they having a conversation about what they going to do at Wagner's. Hey, we're
mhm,
going to get an ice cream for your A. So not only did they get the ice cream, but I think there was a conversation that went on
of course there
before
was.
getting ice cream, getting ice cream, and after the ice cream.
I can
And
see
we
it.
do
I
it
can see
today.
the
Yeah.
mother, father saying, I'm so proud of you for
Yes.
doing this. And we're going to go get this ice cream. And there are other people that are proud of you.
Yes. And you know what? Anybody 12 and under, they so happy with the ice cream. Now, I don't know about the 12 and under 12-year-olds today. They probably want to like a
An
I
iPhone.
don't know. Yeah, right. But the simpleness, right, of the
Yeah,
gift.
that's right. That's right. Keep it
So
keep it simple. KISS.
keep it
Keep words.
simple.
Yeah, keep it simple.
KISS.
Well, the saying was keep it simple, stupid.
Simple, stupid. That's right. I
Yeah.
remember. And you know what? That is our motto of whenever we market or do anything. You got to keep it simple, stupid. But today at Melba's, what we do is I added instead of ice cream. Now listen to this. So you get an A, you come here, you show it, you get ice cream, and you get a po' boy to share. So
Wow.
I included the parent now. We included the parent now. So that's a real celebration. So I challenge all those little small businesses to think something out.
We're going to talk about that. So you have to explain something to us
Hmm.
Northerners.
Okay.
And what is a po' boy? Because I've been down in New Orleans a bunch of times, and I kind of know. But I
Okay.
said to friends, I'm talking to this lady, Jane Wolfe, and she owns a
Mhm.
po' boy shop, and they looked at me
Uh-huh.
like,
What
"What
is a
kind of
poo
shop? What is it?
Yeah, what is it? Well,
Is it short for
you
something? Is it
no, it's just sometimes it's called poor boy, Poor. And how it came into existence, we have some special bread down here that because of the humidity, our bread rises differently.
wow?
Okay. And back in 1929 or 39, this is how it came to be. It's a sandwich with our most popular sandwich here is a hot sausage po' boy. But in 1929, they had a streetcar strike, and all the streetcar boys was striking, and they weren't getting paid. And they had this little shop that had this bread, and they filled it up with ham or luncheon meat or salami, and they gave it to the streetcar strikers for free because they never had any money. And so
Wow!
every time the streetcar striker walked in this place, it was called Morton Brothers, Martin, and they would say, "Here comes another poor boy. Here comes another
Wow!
poor boy."
Wow!
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how the name came into existence. Here comes another po' boy, you know? Now, today, po' boys have gotten very fancy, right? Some of them sell for 25, $30.
Really?
But yeah, but you can still get a po' boy. We say po' boy, Poboy. I even say we got po' girls too. If you want a dress, we'll give you a po' girl. And so that's how it really came in existence, Mark, from the streetcar strikers, and the person that owned the business offered the sandwiches, and they would all say, "Here comes another po' boy."
Right. And then you figured out something about the shrimp. 40, 50
Yes,
shrimp,
sir.
and then you went down to 30 something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well,
That
inflation does that, right? Yeah, we have a certain amount of shrimp guaranteed. I think it's one of our best market employees, not ploys, but it's one of our best recognizable things we have. That if you come into Melville's, you get 35 shrimp or 30
35
shrimp. I
shrimp
think we're down to,
in one sandwich.
yeah, I think we're down to 25 now or
Okay.
27.
It sounds like a lot to
And
me.
yeah, and that puts the shrimp po' boy in people's heads, right? And so sometimes people will come up to us and said, "I'm short of shrimp," and we say, "Okay, man, here's your shrimp," you know. And we don't count the shrimp in essence when they come up to us, but people are literally counting shrimp, and I think that's a good thing.
It
You
keeps
want
you
to make
honest.
sure you get, huh?
Keeps you honest.
Keep you honest. That's right. Keeps you
right? So,
honest. That's
well,
right.
it's like at a bank, when you go and cash a check, you count the money,
You count the money, right? That's
count the
right. I
shrimp.
mean, look, and look, back if we want to go back to Judaism days or the days of, it's about weights and measures, right? Got to be fair.
100%. That's one of the biggest crimes in the Torah is false weights. Like
Ah,
charging people,
false weights.
keeping your elbow on the scale when you're weighing something. Yeah, you're
That's
not
right.
allowed to. It's an interesting thing you bring up. One of the they say in the Judaism when you die and you meet
Uh
your
huh.
Maker and you meet God,
Mm-hmm.
one of the first questions that He asks you is, "Were you honest in your business affairs?
One of the first questions.
Were you
So is
honest
this
in
in
your?"
the okay? Is this in the Torah
Yeah. So it's
or?
very important because we spend so much time at work and
Yes,
working with people, and there's such an
absolutely.
opportunity to cheat people that
Yes,
God considered this one of the highest priorities, that you're honest in your business affairs.
that's right. And look,
Because
if
if,
we
if you're
want,
not honest there, you're going to be dishonest in other areas of your life.
absolutely, absolutely. You taught me something there because in that little thing that you read, one of the highest forms of charity I learned. That's what I loved about your book. You get a history lesson of Judaism while you're reading your book, right?
Thank you.
And what I yes, definitely it is profound work, and I love it. And I think everybody, if they want to know anything about Judaism, they should read your book.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And coming from you, even extra special because you're not
It's
Jewish,
the
and
truth.
it means that. So, by the way, you asked me to look at page 23 in your book.
Yeah,
This and there's
yeah, yeah.
there's your book right
Yes.
there. And
All
I didn't
right,
get a
that's
chance to
cute.
read the whole thing because you just sent it. I just
Uh-huh.
got it like yesterday or
Right.
the day
Well,
before.
at the last minute, I said, you know what? Let me send Mark something so he has a little insight.
You give
It's not
everybody
because
free
I'm
free ice creams. You got to give me a book. Come on.
yeah, I gotta give
So
you a book.
it
All right.
says here, you put in on page 23 at the bottom, in Judaism, the highest form of giving is providing someone a job. In our
Mhm.
hearts and hearts of every human being. Okay, and then at the bottom, in the it says, known as tzedakah, the moral obligation to do what is just and right. So I checked with my rabbi, and you are 100% correct. He said.
Wow.
Um,
Good. I'm glad
so
I got it right.
let me tell you, I figured out a little from that. The highest form
Okay.
of it's called a mitzvah. Like
Mitzvah.
a good deed
Mhm.
to helping
Okay.
someone. Somebody needs. More important than giving them money, it's like, I guess, did Jesus say it or who said, teach a man to fish rather than give him the fish?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure who said that, but certainly someone you would know about.
I don't
So,
think it was Jesus, but I understand what you're saying.
so um, in Judaism, getting somebody employed, teaching them to work in a job is because that lasts forever. A meal doesn't.
Mhm.
That's gone the next
Mhm.
day. So
Mhm.
what you've done in essence, and I thought about this, is by handing out these books and educating people, is in a sense you've given them another type of job to
Mhm.
educate themselves. You're teaching them to educate
Yes.
themselves, and
I
if they
believe in lifelong learning. That's right.
yep, and if they
Mhm.
learn how to do this, then they go on
Mhm.
to a stronger, better life
Yeah.
through an education, which you've learned. So let's talk about your little education journey, and we'll get into what you're doing with the books. You went.
Well, let me say one thing right there,
Sure.
because this might be teaching something in Judaism that was a shock to me when I learned it. And you kind of explained it a little bit. You teach a man to fish. The highest form of charity is, that I have in my book is about giving it. When I was in an Old Testament class over at Harvard Divinity School, I remember being told and taught about, and it's in the Old Testament, about the outstretched arm. There's
Hmm.
something in there about you give somebody a hand up, not a hand out.
Wow. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
and it's the outstretched hand inside of Judaism that makes me see things about, like you said, giving people information that they can run with.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly it.
Mhm.
And listen, you employed at one time up to 300 people. So, each
Yeah.
one of those is a blessing.
Oh my God, it made my life. And look,
Yeah.
we had to be fair, or we wouldn't still be here if we weren't. I'm not saying I'm far from a saint, but in our business dealings, I will say that it goes a long way being fair with people.
Hmm.
You
So,
know,
I had a question about this, about your business. What was the criteria for you to hire some? Well, who did the hiring? Was it your husband or you? And what was the criteria, the person to get hired to work for you? What did they have to show you?
nothing. We didn't start taking resumes. And look, it's probably why we only got the 10 stores, right? We didn't get to that next level.
Only 10
Um,
stores. That
yeah,
that's
only
a
10
lot to.
stores. Yeah, we were doing a lot. But if you had a brother or a sister or a cousin or an aunt that needed a job, tell them to come on down. You
Mm,
vouch for them, we'll hire them. You
mhm.
know, we didn't start taking resumes until about 30 years. We used to say, bring us, I remember about 30 years after we're in business, we used to say, bring us a resume. And if you bring us anything typed up or handwritten, that was like a check. That was like you showed up one time and you brought something, you being hired. Um, we never had a big thing of getting it all greatly organized. Although I see today what would be beneficial to that. Well, we were just running our race, Mark. And
Sure. Is it harder
it was
now hiring?
mostly,
Is it harder now hiring people?
is it
In
harder now
California,
hard?
it's fraught with all these laws and things you have to do and questions you can't ask, and
Yeah, yeah. My husband would say it's much harder. My husband would say probably that nobody wants to work.
Mhm.
It's almost like to me, a lot of people look down on a retail job, but there are so many organizational skills you learn in a retail job. Look, I mean, and I always say if you can run retail or you can be in retail, satisfying people and making it clean and organized, and you can run anything. You can run a lot of stuff having organizational skills. But I think today a lot of people don't want to work because it takes a lot of organizational skills to like be in the low end, not the low end jobs of retail,
Mhm.
right? And people get frustrated. And I don't think it's harder to hire. I just think people don't have a motivation to
Right.
work and they not, yeah, it's more that for some
Mhm.
reason.
So
That
so you go ahead.
I find people don't come with organizational skills that used to be taught at the home.
Right, right, right.
They
Well, especially men. Listen, I was a slob when I got married, and
yeah,
my wife cured
yeah.
me of many things, and that one,
I read that in your book.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah.
you said something about
My
yeah, it
apartment
was
when I was
good.
single, my apartment when I was single,
Uh-huh.
I mopped once a year, whether it needed it or not. So,
Right.
so so you dropped out of high school, right?
Mhm.
You got a GED.
I didn't want to drop out, but the Catholic school system, the Catholics said, "Yeah." So I got a
Okay,
GED. Yeah.
which I did too, by the way.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's good.
I left high school. I pretty much left junior high school. I was done with school. I hated school, but it was different than my. I did it for different reasons. I did not get pregnant first, so there was.
Right, right. But you did go to get a
But these
GED,
days,
right?
if I
Did you
want to
go
get
get that?
pregnant, by the way, these days I
Yeah.
can have a
Yeah, you
baby if I
can.
want.
Right, you sure can.
Yeah, it's my
Yeah.
choice. So,
Yeah, it's your choice.
yeah. So you're out of school there, and
Uh-huh.
at 43 or so, you decide it's time to start the education up again.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
mean,
Both my oh,
book wise, you're already
both was.
educated
I
in
was
your
just
job.
I think I was educated in human relations
Hmm.
and business.
Hmm.
And uh, I was educated from magazines of just wanting to be the best business person I could be at the level we were at, right on the ground level of retail. Advertisement comes easily to us. You know,
Hmm.
no, I didn't have to go get a degree for that. I mean, I know how to. we know how to shock people and get people to take notice, right?
Mhm.
So, and that was a saying, you can't beat Wagner's beat, which actually worked, but it also came from the customer. You got to listen to people. You
That's
got to
right.
listen to people, right? So when you say, I went to school at 43, I was going through the empty nest syndrome. Uh, Katrina had hit. I think Katrina hit. Scott, did I go to school before Katrina or after? I kind of forgot. Katrina kind of blows us. Hurricane Katrina. So 2007, I walked into college. And the reason why I walked in is because I was having dinner with my family one Sunday. And I remember saying to myself, I think I'm getting too old for college. And my son, for the first time, it was one of those first times when your kids all of a sudden tell you something you should be listening
Sure.
to.
Sure.
And he said, and I remember in a moment, he says, Mama, you're going to be 50 years old with a degree or not. He says, it's all up to you. That was it.
Beautiful.
I went,
Beautiful.
I went, and that's what happened. I went the next day. I signed up for one class, and it was called political science or American government. And you know what? I was in that class, and I couldn't believe how much I didn't know about our government.
Mhm.
I got an A in the course. And then next semester I took 2. Next semester I took 3 classes. And before I knew it, I had a degree from Tulane in
Wow.
4
So
years.
when you got your A, did you go to the store and get a free ice cream?
No, but I was proud of that A. Oh, no, I should have.
You should have. You earned
Yeah, I
it.
should have.
What's the
That's
matter with
right.
you? What kind of
I don't know what
businesswoman
I
are
do.
you?
I don't know what it. Yeah, I don't know what I did with my first A. I was a little shocked I made an A because I was the oldest person in class, and I just couldn't believe I made an A.
So you said, and I read, you said, and they gave you all these books, and you went home and read these books that you never read before.
That's right. Mhm.
So let me ask you, then somehow you ended up at the Harvard Divinity School. Now, have is that associated with Harvard University?
Oh, and oh my God, yeah. Well, you know, Harvard was, of course, many universities
Originally, it
across
was
America.
a Jesuit, right?
I don't know about Jesuit, but it was definitely founded by ministers. You know,
Okay.
in order to proclamate, they were training ministers. They were, it was a God-centered university, and
Right.
I think Harvard Divinity is the oldest school at Harvard.
So did you have to
And I
go
was like,
there? Did you go there?
yeah,
Mm,
we went over there and lived 3 years. So I
in
got a
Boston?
master's in yes, no, in Cambridge, not Boston.
Cambridge,
Oh,
Massachusetts, or
yeah,
Cambridge, right?
yeah. And I was lucky enough that I had a professor over at Tulane took me on the side when we had lunch on campus because I was talking about my paper. And he said, Jane, you going to graduate school? And I'm like, I don't know nothing about graduate school. He says, you need to go to graduate school. You love this religion stuff. I'm like, well, you can get a degree in religion somewhere? He says, yeah, they got divinity schools all over America. I'm like, what divinity school? I never heard of divinity school in my life. He
Hmm.
says, uh, he says, divinity schools are looking for a student like you, Jane. And I'm like, really? He says, yeah, even Harvard has a divinity school. I'm like, Harvard has a divinity school. He said, yeah. So I went and looked at their website and I fell in love with what they would teach, what their program was about. And I went home and told my husband, I'm not going to apply for Harvard. And he kind of looked at me like, okay, you know. So I did the application and I spent a lot of time on that application. I was lucky enough to have James Carvell as my political science professor over at
Wow.
Tulane. And I got him as a recommendation. And I had somebody else a recommendation over at Tulane, 2 other people at Tulane. And they put recommendations in for me. And when I put my head on the pillow at night after I did my application mark, I said there was nothing else I could do. That was it. And do you know they told me yes?
Wow.
And there I was over at
Wow.
Harvard Divinity School. And my husband and I went up there. He'd come up there about 3 times a month while I was studying. We had a little apartment. I lived the dream, Mark, in regard to what a woman that was in retail her whole life could do.
Wow.
I
So
mean, it's amazing.
wow. And So you got this degree. What is a divinity degree? What is it?
Well, I'm not, so everybody thinks you're going to go found a church or you're going to be a minister. I didn't take classes. There's a divinity degree and there's a master of divinity degree where you learn about theology on a deeper level, or a master of theological studies, which means I studied theology in regard to why people think the way they do, why Judaism thinks the way it does, why Hinduism. But I focused on ancient Christianity and capitalism. So a
Okay.
divinity degree is a little different than theological studies. I like to think I'm not as holy roly as the divinity degree students, right?
Hmm.
But it taught me how to. It taught me what I learned in divinity school, getting a master's in theological studies, is it taught me why I think the way I do in regard to my faith tradition.
Right. What I did read was that what you learned from religion, and I guess this too, is you
Hmm.
learned to think about others.
Yes,
I think that's a quote that you said.
I think that religion and people that study their rel I think that my husband always, and this is the difference between my husband and I think because when you come from a religious home or practicing some type of religious tradition, it's in it's imbued inside the sacred scriptures to think of somebody else. I have a little bit against Buddhism, in regard to people saying that's a religion. I think that might make you think a little bit too much of yourself and wanting to release you from the emotions that, but Judaism and Christianity and Islam, I think, do a good job of making you think of the other. And that's the difference between my husband and I. He was concerned about that bottom line because I think he didn't come from a religious home as much as I did. And I was always thinking, what can we do for the other, for the mama that's bringing her kid in? I don't know if it's biological because I'm a woman and he's a man, uh, but that aspect of thinking of the other, I think, is a beautiful thing that religious traditions offer.
Hmm. I agree with you. I've written
You
about
agree
that.
with me? That's good. You did?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not in your
Yeah.
book, huh?
Well, what you see, like when I go to synagogue, temple, Jewish temple,
Mhm, mhm,
um,
mhm.
you see people doing a lot of things for other people. And you don't see that when you're just
Yes.
walking on the streets every day.
You did put that in your book. You put, I remember the part, you said, I got to see people rolling an old person in a wheelchair. I
Right.
got
That's
to
right.
see people celebrating good times and bad. I got to see, yes.
And you
And
get
it's
to see
there in your
people,
face.
right. And I got to see people, you get to see people doing a very private action, which is praying in public.
Yes. That was I think that's the most beautiful part of your book.
Thank you.
That made me see things even better than I thought about religious traditions. And you know what? What's so good about that inside your book? On a weekly basis, you see it.
Right. You don't just see it once a year. I go every week.
That's
Friday.
right. You
In
don't
fact,
just,
I go tonight to
that's right.
synagogue, and then I go tomorrow, and sometimes even during the week.
Yeah,
But
you don't just see Aunt Lucy gets diagnosed with cancer and you hear it one time and it goes away. You seeing people diagnosed with cancer or in asking for help from a God that you believe in, right? And
mhm,
you see the human to human. I think the same thing I see in retail here, face to face. I think inside the synagogue and inside the Catholicism, you see face to
inside the
face with
church,
people, right?
absolutely, absolutely, and you get to
Yeah,
know the people on a whole different level. So
that's right.
so thank you. So you
All
have
right.
you have your degree, and let's start talking
Mm-hmm.
about this book uh, idea that you
Uh
came up with. It's so funny.
huh.
I'm so amazed by it.
What's funny? What's funny by it? Tell me what's
Well,
funny.
it's probably much more difficult than you make it out to be, because I was thinking here, I know a ton of restaurants, and
Okay.
they should do something like this. Bring some
Mm-hmm.
books
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
get people in there, and We have these little bookcases like in the streets. You ever see those? Take a book, leave a book.
You
Have you
know, I
seen?
thought that was, yeah, I thought that was good. And at the beginning, it was did a splash. I don't, I don't want to put down another person that's doing that, but I never see anybody at it. There's nobody taking a book out of it.
Right. They do. But
They do?
yeah, I think well, they certainly put them in there.
Yeah, they put them
Um,
in there.
I donated. I had 500 books. I donated to the library that I
That's
cleaned
good.
out my bookshelf. But anyway,
Okay.
that aside, so let's talk about this book in your restaurant and because you
Hmm.
like my book. Why not lessons on comedy, courage, and chutzpah would not ordinarily fall into the hands of your customers,
That's right. That's
right?
right. What I would call everyday people
Yeah,
or
yeah,
everywhere people.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It just wouldn't be on the
It's a,
shelves. They would be.
and
It's
that's why this why this literacy project works, because I'm hitting people. We are hitting people that wouldn't normally pick up your book.
right. I see that. So let's explain how this came about here, because it's a phenomena, and you've had people like
Hmm.
the Clintons come your
Uh-huh.
way,
Hmm.
and I saw something about Oprah, y- right, or something. Or
Yeah, she featured. She never came here yet. I'm still looking for her, but I got to.
boy, it's so right
She.
up. Oprah, where are you? This is so
Oh
right up
yeah,
your alley.
yeah, yeah.
I've
She
never
did
seen anything.
feature us. Yeah, she featured us. That's right. You've never seen anything like it. I think she's just busy. But she featured us in her magazine, her website, that we wanted a top 4 nonprofits that are doing something special inside of literacy.
Yeah, and you are, and it's amazing, and you're also one of the top businesses or something down where you are.
Yeah, yeah, which is kind of interesting in and of itself. Uh, well, all those, they got so many awards today, Mark. I mean, you can get an
Tell me about
award
it.
on anything, right?
Yeah.
So there's too many awards. I mean, I'm sure you say some of that in your comic fields. We got picked as the fastest growing business because Inc. 500 selected us because we went from like zero to, you know, I don't know, 300 miles per hour within 3 years. So
Wow, that's pretty fast.
yeah,
So
so that's,
so how did this idea come about with you
I'm gonna
matching
tell you how it came.
literacy with
Right.
food?
Well, every time when I was over at when I was in school and I was over at getting the graduate degree from Harvard Divinity School, and I was going to all these beautiful discussions. I mean, on Harvard's campus, you got discussions everywhere. Every school, there's professors, you know, giving their books and talking about their books and authors coming through. And I used to always think of the people back home, the 1,000 people that come through our place. And because I was getting this education and all of this stuff, I said, what can I do to bring it back home? I want to get what I'm learning into people's hands.
Hmm.
So I had a professor. He was my graduate advisor. I'll remember this to the day I die. I'm in his office and I'm talking about my paper, because he was my graduate advisor. His name's Jonathan Walton. He's now the dean of the theological school over at Princeton now. And he had his books published. And they were boxes of books. Did you get boxes of books, or did you get books at home where you had a bunch of books what did you do with your published book yet? Do you have any at your house in a
I
box?
do. I got about 60 in here.
How many?
60.
Okay, 60. Well, he had about 6 boxes in the corner of his room. And I looked over and I said, "What's that, Jonathan?" And he says, "I just published a book." I said, "Oh, you just published a book? What it's about?" He says, "Well, it's about the lens of love, how to get love out of the Bible." And I looked at him and I looked at the box of books and I thought about Melba's back home and I said, "You know what? We should do a book giveaway over at Melba's." I said, "Jonathan, why don't you come down to New Orleans and we'll give away your book? Well, I'll put you right in front of the restaurant, right in the middle of the restaurant, and whoever buys something, they'll get a free book." And I said, "This is a great way to get, a professor to put his stuff out into the public square. So he came down, he looked at me, says, "That's a good idea, Jane."
Hmm.
Now here's a professor from Harvard at the highest academic place, and he told me yes right away. So he came down with his wife and his three kids. His three kids worked behind the counter. It was funny. It was good and fun. His wife helped him with the books. And that's all I can say. The eyes of people that came and got it made me do another book and another
Mm.
book and
Mm.
another invitation. That's how it started, Mark. Sitting in the
Wow.
office of my graduate advisor, looking at all the books that he had to sell,
Right.
you know? And so I took 100 off his hand. So it's
And
100 copies. We do 100 copies.
I know. And luckily, when you saw that, got the message. It came through to you, and you picked up on it.
That's what I
Where
did.
did
And I ran with it. And
where'd that
go
message
ahead.
come from?
The message of what?
What to do with these
The
books when you
literacy.
thought about when you had that
Where do I
idea?
think
Yeah.
where do I think the message came from? It came from what I have been endowed with in the process of life for the past 40 years. I didn't get the message off a shelf. It came from the process of life. And it just came to me. It was like divine, to tell you the truth.
Hmm.
I didn't know I was going to turn around and look at books and tell my professor, let's do a book giveaway. But I knew the books. I knew the little bitty thing that my husband gave me at the laundromat was doing good, and that was geared toward kids, right?
Hmm.
So I thought, well, what about the adults, right? And that's how it came about. It was just the process of
Wow.
that. That was it.
So, by the way, with the laundromat, I don't know if we explained it. You have storytelling while people are doing their laundry.
Well, it's not storytelling. It's just imagine walking into a laundromat. And you know when you walk into a laundromat and they got usually numbers on the machines, and if you have a problem with the number on the machine, you have to go tell the guy like number three's out. Number four is not working.
Sure.
My husband, it was his idea, which I thought was great, but not at first. I said, "What are you doing?" He's sticking all the machines of local people. For instance, we have anybody that's famous, like Mark Morial, Mark Morial's mama, Louis Armstrong, uh, Mahalia Jackson, and we'd put a little Twitter style history. We'd put the picture of Mahalia Jackson and a little Twitter style history of her. So while you're looking at your machine, you kind of get a little lesson while you were doing your laundry.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and that's one of our most popular things inside the laundromat, and that's why the Clintons came here, because they were shocked by taking a machine and making a learning lesson, a time of learning.
Reminds me of what we used to read on the back of cereal boxes.
Yes. Yes. Did not have your attention, right?
It certainly did. While you're doing something, you're getting a little education. Didn't
I
even know
think
about
it
it.
still does. I still like to read
Not
the
as good.
box of back.
Yeah, it's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, it's not as good as it used
Not
to
not
be.
as
That's right.
not as good as it used to be. So so authors can come your way, and
Mm-hmm.
you're giving out. Where do you get these? Like my 100 books. Where are you getting them from?
I'm gonna get it from the publisher. Who published it? PR Penguin Random House or Simon and Schuster? Who did yours?
Apollo Publishers in New York. I
Okay,
will give you
yeah.
all that information.
I've already ordered from Apollo. And what they do is because we're a nonprofit, I made this a nonprofit. Um, they give me a discount on the books.
Yeah, we're
And as
going to
long
get
as
you a
I don't,
discount.
yeah, and as long as I don't send them back, as long as I don't send the books back, they happy as hell.
Happy as a lark.
Happy as a lark. That's right.
So
What is a lark anyway? Is it a
it's
bird?
a bird.
Okay. All right.
A bird. It
Happy as a
used to
lark.
it used to also be a cigarette. There was a cigarette brand named Lark
Okay, I didn't know
when I was
that.
growing up, which I
All
don't do
right.
anymore. So you got these people, they take
Mm-hmm.
these books, they come and have, and you're open 24 hours. And I hear that you do most of your business most between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m.
10 p.m. to 4 a.m. is busy.
Who's coming in the
Constant
store?
line.
Who's
Who's
are,
coming in the store? I'm
is
gonna
there
tell you who's
seating
coming in
is
the
there
store.
seating in the store?
Yeah, there's seating in the store, but probably 60% of probably 50% of our business is to go. So people come in and get their stuff to go. It might be 60%.
Who's
I don't
eating
know. My
these
husband would.
these crazy big sandwiches at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Well, who's eating them is New Orleans is a tourist city,
Yeah.
right? Just like New York. New York is a town that never sleeps, right? So because we're so geared toward tourism, and also we are a port city, right? Those ships had to be unloaded all hours of the night. So
Right.
we had this 24-hour mentality. And most of our customers are people getting off of hospital jobs, people getting off of service industry jobs, and the hospitality industry, right? The hospitality industry runs 24 hours a day.
Sure.
And also, and let me tell you, the crowd at night is different than the crowd during the day,
Hmm.
because the crowd at night, probably 30% of the people are kind of like partying, having fun, right? And 70% of the people are servicing people that have been partying in New Orleans.
Hmm.
So it's an interesting group that comes in during the day when we have our book giveaways between 12 and 1, because I want to do a midnight book giveaway with your book, which is
Yeah, we're
going to be
going to do
very interesting.
Saturday night at midnight.
Our first one. And I've been wanting to do a midnight book giveaway, and I'm so happy you said yes to that.
Absolutely. Well, you wanted to do Friday night originally, and because of the
Yes.
Sabbath, I wasn't able to do that.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we're going to do that. So
Why
these
not,
people,
right? I love the title of your book. Why not? Why
why
not do
not?
it? That's
So
right.
you, so you have people, they take the book, and did they ever come back and talk to you about it, or?
Oh God, yeah. Not. I mean, I don't have a line out the door, but people always mention it. Yes, they talk about it. And you know what I hear most of the time? Besides people saying, I didn't know that about that in the book, Jane. Like the book we gave today was called Little Melba. Okay, which is interesting. And it's a children's book, and it's about Melba Liston, who was a famous little girl trumpet player that happened to it's a real nonfiction book in cartoon form that went on tour with Quincy Jones
Wow.
as part of the US State Department.
Hmm.
And so what's so interesting about this book today, here we are in Music Town, and here's something new that we get to teach people about music. So everybody was excited about this book today because it's something new, right? So you say, what do they come in and say? I hear so much. Every time somebody comes in, I always hear this. Hey, you know that book I got last time? I gave it to my sister because she was interested in the topic. Hey, I gave it to my granddaughter. Hey, I gave it to my friend. I hear that more than ever. Like
Right.
people, when they get the book, they say, "Oh, I know who's going to be interested in this topic," and they give the book away. So it's
Of
it's
course.
interesting to have, yeah, it's interesting to have a gift gifted again. That's
That's
what
right.
it seems like happening.
Wow. So, what's how did you find my book? How did this happen?
Well, we have a religious thread running through here, right?
Yeah.
And and I guess because I went to divinity school, I don't know what, but I mean, we always got to know more about our religious tradition. And I came across a GTA, I think it was Jewish Telegraph. It was some type of blog or something.
Yeah, an
What's the
article,
name of
right.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, an article. And when I read that, it just caught my attention. And I'm like, I don't know Mark Schiff. I never did hear of Mark Schiff. But the way the article was written, Mark, made me order the book.
Mhm.
And then I invited you and said a prayer when I sent the email off, and you responded
Right, you
quickly,
got
which is
yeah,
beautiful.
you wrote me on my, website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever
You
I send an email and an author, I always say a prayer when I send that when a thing, and it's always beautiful. Really, nobody tells us no, and I'm so glad you can help us learn about Judaism through your book of comedy.
right. Probably growing up, you probably didn't meet many Jewish people.
No, I didn't, but I will tell you this, what I learned. No, I did not. But my daddy, remember how I told you worked for Kirschman's?
Kirschman, he was a Jewish man. Yeah.
He was a Jewish man. How you know that? Because of why? The last name, right?
Last name.
That's right. And what I learned from my mom and dad was my oldest sister, the one that died of breast cancer, when she was young, she had a blood disorder. And my mom and dad were trying everything about her blood disorder. I mean, my sister lived to 48, and
Mm.
it was pernicious anemia. And my mom told me she always remembered Mr. Victor Kirschman sent my my sister, when she was like 4 years old, to Toro Infirmary
Hmm.
and told my mama, go see this doctor.
Wow.
And that doctor saved my sister's life. And Victor Kirschman didn't charge my mom anything. So y'all got some good deeds out there. And
Well,
that's
that
how
that's
I
beautiful. That's
didn't.
a tremendous story.
It's the truth.
And that's one of the other great mitzvahs is to help people to visit the sick and help the sick. It doesn't get much greater than that.
Yeah, but we didn't hang with Jewish people.
Right. Well, they probably weren't there.
Yeah,
You
where
weren't.
were they?
Yeah.
Where are they? Where were they?
There's a Jewish enclave down there because I did a show
Okay.
down in New Orleans at a synagogue somewhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
they're there. But so Melba's,
Mhm.
I just found out that's named after your grandmother.
No, not my grandmother. My husband had his grandmother. Her name was Miriam Wolfe, and she used to play piano on Bourbon Street. She wasn't famous, but she had a gigs every night. And my husband as a child says he remembers going by his grandma's house and a lady was ironing for her. And her name was Miss Melba.
Right, Miss Melba. Okay, that's it. I thought it was your grandmother. Okay.
Yeah, no, Scott's grandmother's lady that was ironing her clothes. And then they also used to have a famous thing called Melba's, not famous, but there's a little diner about 8 blocks from here or a mile.
An
And
ice cream
back in the
store
night,
too, wasn't there? An ice
yes,
cream store, Melba's.
yep, 1950s and 60s was a little diner. It was an ice cream store. So we knew it
Is
was a popular name.
is Miss Melba still with
So
us?
no, no, no. The one that used to iron for my husband's grandma? No, the grandma passed away. This was like in 1940s.
Yeah, I
No,
guess
no,
not.
no, no, my husband, he remembers her in 1960. He says he was about 5 years old. So 1969,
It's amazing.
67. Yeah.
So it's going well. You got the store up. You got the laundromats. People are being educated. So what's coming down the pike in the future? I hate to put it like this, but
Yes.
you're going to do more good for people. I know. What's on your
Oh,
mind?
wow. Well, well, that's interesting because what's next, right? So that future thinking, Mark, if I was 30 years old, I'd be pushing this harder, right?
Mhm.
But I'm 50, 59 actually, which is okay. I'm not saying us older folk can't do anything. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't feel old. But we're not 30 anymore. But what I see in the future, I see in the future there's a Melba type of restaurant in every state. And
Hmm.
I foresee 50 of these across the United States. Only one per state. Nothing. I see 50 of them. And I see when a book such as yours, or a book that Simon and Schuster puts out, or a book that Penguin Random House puts out, and they say we want to be at these 50 restaurants where we on a tour of those special little gems all across America that give out 100 books on one day. So you got 100 times 50, that's 5,000 books in one day, right? So
Yep.
you give away 5,000 books to the community, and that community becomes lifelong learners from that author. We mostly fool with nonfiction, but that's where I see it going next. If that's going to happen, Only God willingly, right? That's it.
Yeah, that's right. But we have
Does
to
that
do the work.
sound good? Does that
It
sound
sounds
good?
it sounds great. See,
It
I
sounds
told you in the
great.
beginning, I thought about this myself, but I wouldn't even know how to begin. Like, if I wanted, let's say, if somebody wants to approach a restaurant in their area
Hmm.
to do such a
Right.
thing, what do they
They
do?
just gotta. Well,
They
because
got to
we
be
are an
willing to. They have to
organization.
be willing to buy 100 books. That cost money.
I don't even think the restaurant owner has to be willing to. The restaurant owner does not have to be willing. I've had Uber Eats that gave me $20,000 for the program. Okay,
Hmm.
because we talked them into it. I've been doing the program for 4 years, and Uber Eats is like, okay, we'll do it. Because they all these big corporations involved with food. So I see the food industry helping these 50 locations. I think it'll cost the restaurant owner nothing. The only thing that he has to do is be willing. He's got to be willing to be a vessel. And what I can do is talk that business owner. I can talk on his terms of why he should do it. Right? And if he says no, you know what I'm gonna ask him? Where's your wife?
There you go. Wait.
I'm gonna talk to the wife.
So, what would you tell me? I own a restaurant
Uh-huh.
here in Los Angeles.
Mhm, mhm,
Mark,
mhm. Well, I want to make sure you got a good restaurant, well run, and it's geared toward everyday people. It's not like a fancy. It can't be it can't be a fancy restaurant where only high income people go to that already have this knowledge because they can afford all the fancy schools and all of this stuff. You want everyday people. So it's got to be a certain restaurant. It's a certain gem,
hmm
right? And first I gotta solidify who you are in essence of is your restaurant servicing the people that we want to make this a lifelong learning thing. But
hmm
I'll definitely convince you that it'll be the best thing you ever did.
I'm sure you would. Sure you would.
And we'll show you, right? But once the publishers, if the publishers could be a part of these 50 restaurants, it's an easy sell, Mark.
Yeah.
It
No,
just
it
needs
sounds.
yeah.
I'm going to talk to my publisher about it, and they're going to hear this. So, um,
Talk to
what
your
have I?
foundations people you know. That's what we know. That's what we need.
So,
Whoever that is.
what have I not covered about you? What would you like to let the people know?
I'm blessed to have met you, and I don't know why yet. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be even sitting with somebody such as you and you interested in my life or
Hmm.
what I'm doing. I never thought. So I'm just pleasantly surprised, blessed, and that I'm talking to you because you are. I mean, you've been in the comedy industry for 25 years, and my husband loves comedy. And
45,
I didn't even,
45.
yeah, 45 years, right? And I didn't even know about you, and you interested in what we're doing here down in New Orleans. It's very interesting to me.
I'm like you. I'm like a local secret. So,
Yeah, you're
don't.
like secret.
Now I
I
know
like that.
you're very kind to say those things. Listen,
Mhm. No, I'm telling you the truth.
one of the things when my co-host could not make it today, I said,
Uh-huh.
I really wish you would because I was so excited about talking to you.
Yeah.
Your whole thing here, and I've talked to a lot.
Oh.
If you look at my podcast, I've talked to
Uh-huh.
a lot of famous people.
Hmm.
But I was
Hmm.
so excited about talking to you.
Oh.
So
Well, thank you, Mark.
before we wrap, is your husband still there?
Yeah, he is. Look, Scott, you're
Scott,
he's
we
sitting here. Come
can
over
we
here,
bring?
Scotty. He's laying right here with the other earphone. But I think he
Good,
fell asleep. No, I didn't fall asleep.
Scott, come on camera, would you, sir?
Scott. All right. And Lewis. The man that is he's speaking and talk. I don't even think people think big man dealing with what I've made this because it costs him, right?
Sure.
Cost him. He's awake. Okay, I'm here, Mark. How you doing?
Hello, Scott. So how long you been married to this lovely lady?
43 years, 43 and a half years.
And a half. Beautiful.
And a half. Yeah, not about a month. Yeah.
How do you take it, being married to a firebrand like this? How do you,
Although,
a woman filled with such ideas?
Oh man, she's kept me rolling for 43 years. Every time I got it down pat, she changes.
Keeps you on your toes, right?
Oh yeah, it keeps me on my toes. Absolutely, yes, sir.
So tell me what's the secret to a 43-year marriage? I'm married 33 years, so I'm a kid compared to you. I'm just
Yeah.
starting out at 33.
Yeah, we married
33.
25%
Oh,
more.
yeah, you're right. 33 is young. 33 young, young.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Right. 43, we've always, we've worked together for 43 years also. Not just been married, we worked together. We didn't have to go. Jane says sleeping patterns. That's probably a good answer.
Yeah.
Called sleeping patterns. We get up at the same time and go to bed at the same
Sleeping patterns matter. If you got the
Wow.
same sleeping pattern, we think that works.
I've talked to a lot of married people, and I've never heard that explanation ever.
Well, well, the thing is, when he's up, I'm up. When he's down, I'm down. When two different sleeping ways, like you work in the day and work at night, that can't work. We tired at the same time.
It does work for some people.
Yeah, it does work. That's right. I guess. Well, I don't know. 50% of the marriages are divorce, so maybe it's not working.
Here
But
we
no,
go.
it's
Here goes a spat right on camera. Here we go.
Yeah, you're right. I don't care.
Right.
But I can. It can.
Yeah. Kind of true.
Wow. So yeah, that's great. So you work together. Now my wife tells me that if we worked together, we would get divorced because we have problems like in that area. How do you just naturally worked out like this? I mean, most husbands and wives can't seem to work together.
Well, with Jane may not tell you, all the grocery stores we've been in business since we're 19. All of our businesses have always been 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there is no downtime. So we have been really busy with building things, buying things, running things, and been on the same page, the same philosophy, and raising kids that in 43 years kind of just happened like that.
Right. A blink of an eye.
Right.
Did you ever have one big business disagreement?
Big
Uh,
one?
A big one? No, I don't think we really had a big one. You know, we fight sometimes. Like right now, we're trying to decide whether to sell something, and we keep vacillating back and forth just on that. But just new locations, we would fight over a new location. I think it's a good location. Maybe she doesn't, and we used to use my son as the tiebreaker.
Mediator.
The tiebreaker. You know, I bring my son to a vacant piece of property or a piece of property that I redeveloped.
Wow.
And I convince him, and then he would come home and convince her.
Wow.
And
Not all the
then
time,
all
not
three
all
of
the
us was
time.
on the same page.
Is this the
One
same
time-
son? Is this the same son that told you to
Yeah,
You-
go to school. Yeah.
can
So
can
look,
you by the
one-
way, can you have him talk to my kids to come up with some good information for me?
Yeah, we've had very good kids. We got two kids, a daughter and a son and a daughter, and both of them are completely out of the house at 17 years old. Went to out of state colleges, never to return. They never caused us one.
Yeah, that
day-
don't sound great. Never
Yeah.
to return.
Well, I mean, they came back, but
We've been very lucky.
Never one day's trouble, never drugs, never
Wow.
crime, never a problem with it.
But they work too much.
Yeah, they do work too.
So they got out workaholics. That's not
And
good.
They both retired. We're still working. They both retired.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's such a great story.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. So far, my kids haven't been arrested either, so we're into,
Yeah, they don't get arrested. You're doing this.
Now we got to pray over the grandkids. I don't even.
Yeah,
I
we're
don't-
praying over the grandkids.
I don't even like the kids anymore.
yeah. No, of
Yeah.
course
You
we
just
get
like
the
the grandkids.
grandkids. Yeah,
Right.
I know. I like my grandkids much better than I like my own kids. There's no doubt about
Yes.
it. Yeah, much better.
Well, our own
And-
kids, they don't even want to listen to us.
One of the hardest things for us, and I'm sure for you, is explaining to your. Can you tell your kids how to raise their kids?
No,
No, no.
They will not. They will not listen.
I want to.
We do
Okay.
tell them.
He tells me to be quiet.
We do tell them, and yeah, they don't like it.
And
I
you
got
know
to tell Jane, don't tell. I said, look, there's 8 billion people in the world, 8 billion different ways to do everything, 8 billion different ways. The kids are all right. We kind of test, the grandkids okay. They're happy, they're healthy, they're smart.
And you got Google.
So who are we to say they're doing it wrong?
That's
Google
right.
messed it all up. Google messed it all up.
Yeah, the grandkids check us on Google now.
That's so funny. Well, they used to say, like somebody said to their, some older person said, we didn't have Google when we went to school. We had to actually we had to look it up.
That's right. We had to look it up.
We had to go to the library.
Well, go talk to somebody or call mama.
Yeah, we had half the encyclopedias. Half of them were missing. Half of them on the shelf.
Yeah, I had a set of encyclopedia, the World Book Encyclopedia we had. We used to buy it in the supermarket every 2 months or something.
Yeah.
They come out with another volume. And then they
Yep,
would
we
have
did.
like the catch-up volume after you have all the things. The next
Yeah.
year, the year catch-up. Now you have it all on your phone. So you don't have
That
to
way, you have it on your
worry
phone
about
till they make it disappear. You have it all on your phone.
Right.
So before we leave, people out there, some marriage advice. What should somebody do that wants to keep a long-term marriage? Because, a lot of these days, people get married and the vows don't mean as much. These are vows that you take that,
We say.
We just got remarried last year.
Yeah,
did?
we got we got our marriage blessed 3 years.
We had our grandkids at our wedding.
Well, I will tell you this though,
The
Mark.
kids weren't on the way, but the grandkids were.
No, yeah. I asked him to have our marriage blessed for like 20 years. He never would do it.
Really?
Then all of a sudden, 3 years ago, he did it. But
Wow.
he had to go through the whole Catholicism class and all of this stuff. But I don't know what you think. I mean, my advice, I'm going to tell you what my advice is. Stick it out.
Take it out. That's right. That's a good one.
Yeah.
My
You know,
mom-
Seventh club.
I know this old couple, they've been married forever, and she said, the only reason we never got divorced is because we never wanted to get divorced at the same time.
That's
true.
right.
One
It's a
day
good
he's
answer.
thinking, I got to get rid of her. And then a month later, she's thinking, I got to get rid of her. But the two of them never came to terms on that one. So they stayed married for 63 years.
That's it. Don't you
Yeah.
think
That
that's
could
it?
be it.
The thought don't come across your mind, right? It's just
Well-
not on the same week.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And they say,
That's funny. He's the
don't-
comedian. That's why he's got us laughing about that.
it's funny. You said about going to sleep at the same time. My wife, one of the things that she commented on, I will not go to sleep until she's asleep first.
Ah.
It's a
Mhm.
very, she'll look at me and go, why don't you go to sleep? And I just sit there and wait till she falls asleep. I have no idea why I do this, except I guess I'm afraid she'll murder me in my sleep or something. But if I go to sleep first, so I have no idea.
You're a smart
I
man.
go to sleep before you.
Yeah, you're a smart man.
Yeah.
That's true. I can relate to that.
Do you watch a
Why, you
TV?
worried I'm gonna hurt
You
you?
know, life has an
Oh.
element.
Do you watch a TV show before you go to sleep?
Yeah, we have no kids at home now, so yeah,
I
that's
don't.
just quiet. Yeah. Jane reads. I watch TV.
You watch he has a little iPad. We don't have a TV in the room.
Yeah, she got me down to 6
He said they're gonna get the 6 inches.
screen.
Wait, I think the TV has to stay out the bedroom.
I got a
We
closer
didn't
screen
have
I
one
get
for
to
many
watch.
years. Now we watch Jeopardy before we go to sleep.
I didn't see it to watch.
Well,
We
that'll
learn
put you
how-
to sleep.
I learned how stupid I am. So
Yeah.
it's
Right, she knows.
You don't watch Seinfeld going to sleep?
I do not, but I'll be with him in about 2 weeks again, and I'm going to tell him about
Okay.
you guys.
Good.
Oh,
Well,
I see.
tell him
You
I
know?
watch Seinfeld to go to sleep. Absolutely.
Well, it's one of the funniest shows ever, and
Right.
he's a great guy. And so, listen, I think I pretty much think we've covered. Unless you can think of anything else you want to tell the people.
No.
No,
That was-
you're an excellent host. You did a very good job. I was impressed. You built the flow, the questions, and your ability to twist and turn to every comment and go in a different direction.
Let me tell you that one day we did. That's
Thank
why
you.
I think it's amazing. One day I did surprise my husband about 20 years ago.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
I picked him up from the grocery store
Tampa Bay, Florida.
and we went to Jerry Seinfeld's show in Tampa Bay, Florida. I flew him.
Yeah, we went straight to the airport. I didn't know where I was going
That's right. You were
And-
probably opening that. It was about
And-
20 years ago.
until right before the show.
Yeah, you didn't know.
I didn't know why we were in Tampa.
Completely surrounded me. I was like, you know what? I gotta do something different. And we went to a Seinfeld show in Tampa and went back home, flew back home.
Wow. Yeah, I've been with him to Tampa. I don't know, about 20 years ago. It's hard to remember. We go all over the
Yeah.
world together. So, well, this has been fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm
it
coming
is.
your way in October. I think it
Okay,
is.
that's right. October 21st.
Yeah, October 21st is a midnight show. I'd really like to talk to you. We'll talk some other time about.
Yeah,
I'd
we
love to
will.
come down in person and do it. Is
Oh,
is it
that'll be even better.
it's better, right? In person, right?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
It's always better. Have you ever seen an author not enjoy their time here?
No, they every author loves it. And we've had, world-renowned authors, New York Times bestseller, Matthew McConaughey.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I can work it out somehow, we're gonna try to figure this out.
That'd be
But if not,
beautiful.
we're
We
gonna
got
Zoom. 'Cause
we have accommodations for you. We have a house in the French Quarter and
Yeah, if you want to
a
stay with
house
a
in
house in the
Audubon
French Quarter.
Park. Yeah, so we've got
you know what I was
accommodations.
thinking? If I come down there, I'd like to work in your store for a day.
That's beautiful. That'd be great. You could work the night shift.
No, you can
Yeah.
work it.
Yes. No, we're gonna do a midnight book giveaway. You know, didn't I talk to you about
Yeah,
that?
you would, yeah.
I told him that like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, you can work the cash register and go wait on the counters and
Yeah, for an hour or two.
Yeah.
set cameras up. You can set cameras up and get some knowledge out of it.
Who do I have to speak to about getting a job at your place? Who do?
Nobody. I said you don't
Right.
even need a resume. You just got to
You
show
gotta-
up.
You got to send me a resume.
Well, my
I'm
wife.
sorry,
My wife will vouch for me. She'll say.
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah. We'll
I'm-
put her behind the counter too. Be good.
do we get it? Do you have to wear a hairnet or anything?
We have hats. We have a
Yeah,
Melba's,
we got a little
Melba's
Melba's
hat
hat.
for you.
Okay.
Elvis
All right.
T-shirt.
Melba's t-shirt, Melba's
Well,
hat.
I'm going to tell you, if this comedy thing doesn't work out, you may have a new employee.
Wow. Hey, look, we can even give out the books with you behind the counter. I mean,
That's what I'm thinking.
that'll
We
be
should
fun too.
make a whole
Yes.
event of this. If I can, I
That'll be
really will.
beautiful. All right.
So-
I'll try. You get here and I'll make it happen.
Okay. So
Okay.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you guys for coming this way and doing this with me. This is I've loved every minute of it. I think people are going to love it. They're going to hear some great stuff, and I think some people. You know, one of the best things when I read certain books, you ever read a book and you want to be a better person after you've read it?
Sure.
Yeah, there are a few books. There's one in particular called A Tzaddik in Our Time. It's a Jewish book about a rabbi named Ariel Levin. When I read this
Ariel
book,
Levin.
I'll give you the name. I'll send you the thing. It's Levin,
Okay.
Area. When I read this book, I want to be a better human being. And when I talk to you and I got to know you and I know what you're doing,
Oh,
I want to be a better person.
well,
And you
wonderful.
can't ask more of a person in life than someone that's spreading that type of stuff. So I
Well,
thank you, and
Mark.
Thank you.
truly,
You breathe in some eyes.
well, thank you.
But my
And
husband, it's just thank you. That's very kind of you.
no problem at
Because
all.
you're a northerner, right?
That's right. That's right. I am. Well,
You see us
not
pretty-
anymore. I'm in Los
No.
Angeles now, so I've gone from crazy New York to crazy Los Angeles. I've
Yeah,
flown. I did live in the South for kind of. I lived in San Antonio with my wife for 2 years,
Okay.
and I met the people, the salt of the earth. Wonderful,
Yes,
wonderful
that's
people
right.
there. So,
That's where we learned it. All right. Thank you, Mark. It's so,
so
kind of
thank you. Don't go anywhere yet. And again, thank you.